Hello, my dear adventurers. Welcome back to Serene Slumber Tales. Tonight, we journey into the quiet and enchanted history of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. But first, let's make sure you are comfortable. You don't need to hold on to anything from the day. It's time to let it go. Take a slow breath in and gently let it out. Feel the weight of your blanket. Notice the way your body is supported, safe, at rest. Perhaps the room is dim, perhaps only the faint glow of a nightlight or the silver wash of moonlight keeps you company. And for the next little while, you need do nothing but listen and drift. If you like, imagine yourself in a soft armchair by a crackling fire, a mug of hot cocoa in hand. Outside, snow falls gently against the castle windows. You are wrapped in warmth and peace, ready to hear the tale of a school that has been a beacon of magic for over 1,000 years. But for now, no thoughts of the outside world are needed. Just Hogwarts, just calm, just rest. Now, let's begin. Long, long ago, before there was even a Ministry of Magic to write laws or keep order, before spellbooks were neatly bound and carefully catalogued in libraries, magic in Britain was wild, untamed, and scattered like sparks carried on the wind. Children born with magic grew up in isolation, their gifts appearing suddenly and often frighteningly. Some were fortunate, born into families who already carried magical knowledge, households where old grimoires were tucked away in cupboards, where herb lore was passed down alongside bread recipes, and where whispered charms were taught at the hearth as naturally as prayers. These children learned to control their sparks, to shape their gifts into something useful, or at the very least, something less dangerous. Others, however, had no such guidance. For them, magic came like a storm, sudden, destructive, and without warning. These children might accidentally set fires, call winds through the house, or summon shadows in the dead of night. Many of them grew up terrified of themselves, and worse still, their families and neighbors grew terrified of them. Some tried to hide it, while others were cast out. Here were wandering mentors in those days too, mysterious witches and wizards who drifted across towns and villages like shadows, never staying long in one place. They would teach a spell or two, perhaps a simple charm for mending, or a protective ward against storms, and then disappear again before suspicion grew too strong. For some children, these brief encounters changed everything, a spark of knowledge giving them control where once there was only fear. Yet the teaching was uneven, haphazard, and often incomplete. A lucky child might master a skill. An unlucky one might be left with half-learned incantations that backfired in dangerous ways. And beyond these personal struggles, danger was gathering on a much larger scale. Muggles' suspicion was sharp in those times. Whispers of witchcraft spread swiftly, fanned by fear, ignorance, and superstition. A single misstep, a fire burning without wood, a crop growing unnaturally fast, a child who never seemed to fall ill, could brand a family as cursed. Accusations rose like wildfire, consuming entire villages in panic. Those with magic were forced to hide in plain sight, to blend in, to silence themselves. It was an uncertain and fragile time, a world where secrecy was survival and where the future of magic itself seemed perpetually at risk of being stamped out. And yet, it was during this unsettled age, in the heart of the 10th century, that 4 extraordinary individuals emerged. Each was brilliant in their own way. Each carried immense power and, more importantly, a vision of what magic could become if it were nurtured rather than feared. They saw that magic scattered was vulnerable, but magic united could endure. Together, they would change the course of magical history forever. Their names would echo for 1,000 years: Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. Godric Gryffindor was a man of fire. Born in what would later be called Godric's Hollow, he carried with him a boldness and a fearless heart. He was a skilled duelist, quick with his wand, quicker still with his temper, but always fighting for justice. To Godric, courage mattered above all. Not the blood in one's veins, not the family name. If a child had magic, if they had bravery, they were worthy of learning. It was he who first championed the idea of admitting Muggleborns into the school. He believed talent was not confined to lineage, but could appear anywhere. His sword, forged by goblins, silver bright and strong, set with rubies, reflected his spirit, gleaming, proud and unyielding. Centuries later, that sword would emerge again and again in moments of great need, proving that Gryffindor's courage was not bound by time. Helga Hufflepuff was gentleness embodied. Born in the lush valleys of Wales, she believed every child deserved a chance to learn. Where Godric valued bravery, Helga valued kindness. She welcomed students of all kinds, caring not for status or glory, but for fairness and loyalty. Helga was a master of food magic, her recipes still whispered in the Hogwarts kitchens centuries later. It is said the feasts in the Great Hall owe much to her hand. She also created the Hufflepuff Common Room, one of the coziest in all the castle, tucked safely near the kitchens, filled with warmth, plants, and a sense of belonging. And perhaps most notably, she invited house elves to work at Hogwarts, not as slaves, but as allies, offering them a safe haven, protection, and respect. Rowena Ravenclaw was brilliance itself. Her mind shone like a diamond, sharp and unyielding. It was she who envisioned Hogwarts itself, dreaming of a great castle where learning would thrive. In a dream, she saw a warty hog leading her to a cliff by a great lake. And so the name was born, Hogwarts. Her diadem, a circlet inscribed with the words, "Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure," was said to enhance wisdom in whoever wore it. Rowena prized knowledge and cleverness. She believed wisdom was not simply the accumulation of facts, but the ability to use them with creativity. Her legacy lived on in the Ravenclaw Common Room. High in a tower, its door opened not by passwords, but by riddles. For she wanted her students to keep their minds sharp at every threshold. And then there was Salazar Slytherin, cunning, ambitious, and powerful. He hailed from the Fenlands, steeped in marshes and secrets. Salazar was a master of Parseltongue, the rare gift of speaking to snakes. He also excelled in the darker arts, though to him they were not dark, only misunderstood. But unlike his fellow founders, Salazar was strict in his beliefs. He argued that only those from pure magical families should be admitted to Hogwarts, that teaching Muggleborns was dangerous, that it threatened their secret world. This belief brought him into conflict with Godric Gryffindor. At first, their debates were civil. Later, fierce. Finally, bitter. The rift grew so great that Salazar eventually departed the school, leaving behind not only his ideals but also a secret, a hidden chamber beneath the castle guarded by a serpent, waiting for a true heir to awaken it. Even so, his ambition, his legacy, and his vision of greatness lingered. For Salazar, like the others, had shaped Hogwarts forever. Perfect. Let's continue with the next chapters and keep weaving this slow, dreamy pace so it feels like a proper bedtime journey. We'll pick up right after the four founders. When the great castle of Hogwarts was finally completed, its towers rising proudly against the sky, its stone halls echoing with the footsteps of the first eager students, a question arose. How should the founders divide their pupils? For the castle was not meant to be a place of chaos, but of learning and order. Children with such wild and varied gifts needed guidance, and the four founders, each with their own ideals, sought a way to nurture them properly. At first, the method was simple, if imperfect. Each founder chose for themselves. Godric Gryffindor welcomed those with daring hearts, children unafraid of challenges, eager to prove their bravery. Helga Hufflepuff gathered those of gentle nature, steady in kindness and loyalty. children who worked diligently, whether or not the world praised them for it. Rowena Ravenclaw sought minds that burned brightly with curiosity, those who loved knowledge for its own sake and hungered for wisdom like bread. And Salazar Slytherin called to those with great ambition, children who dreamed of power and influence and who possessed the cleverness to achieve it. It was a noble system in its way, and for a time it worked. But soon the founders began to wonder, what would happen when they themselves were gone? Who would sort the children then? The castle would endure for centuries, perhaps forever, but the founders were mortal. Without them, who would decide where each student belonged? It was then that Godric, with a touch of his trademark boldness, removed his own hat, a simple, sturdy wizard's hat, plain and unremarkable. Yet in that plainness, perhaps, lay possibility. Together, the four founders bent their considerable magic upon it. They wove into its fabric their intelligence, their wisdom, their voices, even a measure of their souls. When at last they were finished, the hat was no longer a mere garment, but a living enchantment, a creation that could think, could judge, and could speak. Thus was born the Sorting Hat. From that day forward, every year, new students would gather in the Great Hall, beneath a ceiling enchanted to mirror the sky above. Stars glittered overhead, or storm clouds rumbled, or pale sunlight shone, whatever lay beyond the castle's walls. One by one the children would approach, nervous and wide-eyed, and the Sorting Hat would be placed upon their heads. And then, softly, gently, the hat would look within. It peered not only at the surface of the mind, but deep into the heart. It saw the courage that might still lie dormant, waiting for the right moment to blaze. It sensed the kindness that might grow, steady and strong, like roots beneath the soil. It found cleverness that might sharpen with time, like a blade upon a whetstone, and it glimpsed ambition that might rise, guiding, or perhaps tempting its bearer toward greatness. In a voice only the child could hear, the hat would whisper its judgment. Sometimes the choice was swift, you belong in Gryffindor, or off to Hufflepuff with you. Other times it lingered, weighing possibilities, considering futures not yet written. Some students felt the hat hesitate, torn between qualities, uncertain which path would shape them best. Yet always, at last, it decided. And with that decision, destiny was set in motion. The child would take their place among their housemates, cheered and welcomed into a new family. For centuries, this tradition has endured, a binding thread that ties one generation to the next. And so the four houses, though distinct in character, remain bound together. They are like four streams, different in their courses, yet feeding the same great river, the river of Hogwarts itself, a school born from vision, sustained by unity, and carried forward by the Sorting Hat's timeless song. The four founders of Hogwarts, wise as they were, knew their time would not last forever. Castles may stand for 1,000 years, but human lives are but a breath against the march of history. And so, in their foresight, they each left behind a relic, not merely an object, but a piece of themselves. Each item was infused with their ideals, their values, and their magic, a gift to the generations who would follow. Godric Gryffindor left his sword. Forged by goblin hands in the depths of their forges, it was crafted of the purest silver, its hilt set with rubies that burned like fire. Unlike any ordinary weapon, it was not meant for display, nor to sit rusting in an armory. It was enchanted so that in the moment of greatest need, it would appear in the hand of any true Gryffindor, not the bold in name alone, but those who had proven their courage, their loyalty to what was right. In this way, Godric's bravery lived on, called forth again and again by those willing to face danger with honor. Helga Hufflepuff left a cup, a small golden goblet, modest in design compared to Gryffindor's shining sword, but no less powerful. Her relic was a vessel of endurance, reflecting her belief that greatness lay not in glory, but in kindness. It represented loyalty, fairness, and a nurturing spirit, values that Helga herself embodied. She believed every student deserved a place at the table, and so her cup became a reminder that strength comes as much from compassion as from courage. Rowena Ravenclaw left a diadem, a delicate crown wrought with artistry and said to enhance the intelligence of its wearer. For Rowena believed that wisdom was the highest treasure, that wit and understanding were greater than gold. Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure. The words associated with her house found their symbol in that glittering diadem. To wear it was not merely to be adorned, but to be sharpened, one's thoughts clarified, one's mind set alight with brilliance. Salazar Slytherin left a locket, bearing upon it the serpentine S of his name. It was a token of power, ambition, and legacy. Passed down through his bloodline, it carried the weight of cunning and the will to achieve greatness. Of all the relics, his was perhaps the most double-edged, for ambition can inspire progress, but it can also corrupt. And though his locket was once a proud symbol of determination, in later centuries it would fall into darker hands, twisted into something far from Salazar's original vision. These 4 relics, once pure, once united, became in time scattered, stolen, or transformed by forces of darkness. Yet in their truest form, they remain what the founders intended, symbols of the virtues they cherished. Even in the absence of their makers, the relics left echoes, threads woven through Hogwarts itself. The bravery of Gryffindor could still be found in students who stood, even when standing was hard. The kindness of Hufflepuff lived on in those who valued fairness and friendship over pride. The brilliance of Ravenclaw shone in quick minds and curious hearts, and the ambition of Slytherin guided countless witches and wizards who dared to reach higher, for better or for worse. And so, though the founders are long gone, their spirits endure. Not only in stone, not only in relics, but in every student who walks the halls of Hogwarts, carrying a spark of their legacy into the future. Let us now take a slow walk through the corridors of the castle, imagining what it would be like to be a student here. The day begins with the rising sun spilling through tall windows. Robes are donned, wands collected, books carried, and soon the first class awaits. Charms. Perhaps you begin with charms. Here, Professor Flitwick, or his predecessors in centuries past, demonstrates the swish and flick of a wand, the careful pronunciation of syllables that make an object rise, hover, or float. The classroom hums with excitement as feathers twitch, books rustle, candles spark to life. Transfiguration. Then there is transfiguration, a branch of magic precise and demanding. A button becomes a beetle, a matchstick, a needle. With skill, a teacup might become a tortoise, its shell gleaming under the torchlight. Professor McGonagall, or those before her, remind the students that this is magic of discipline, not wildness. One wrong flick and the result might be half cat, half goblet. Potions. In the dungeons, the air grows cooler. Here, potions is taught. Cauldrons bubble. Steam curls upward in strange colours, emerald, amethyst, indigo. Ingredients are ground, chopped, stirred in precise rhythms. A simple potion might mend a bruise. A complex one might unlock the secrets of the mind. Each recipe is half science, half art, requiring patience, silence, and skill. Herbology. Out in the greenhouses, warmth and the scent of earth surround you. Herbology is the study of magical plants, leaves that heal, roots that poison, flowers that sing when touched by moonlight. Professor Sprout guides careful hands as students repot mandrakes or harvest bubotuber pus. It is messy, grounding, and essential, for the wizarding world relies on plants for much of its power. Defense against the dark arts. And then defense against the dark arts. Always a post filled with shifting teachers, yet always vital. Here, students learn to cast shields, repel curses, disarm opponents. They study boggarts, shapeshifters of fear, and grindylows lurking in dark waters. It is a class of shadows, yes, but also one of strength and protection. Astronomy. At night, cloaks wrapped tight, students climb the astronomy tower. There, under the velvet black sky, they map constellations. They learn how planetary alignments influence magic, how the stars themselves can be read like a book across the heavens. History of magic. And of course there is history of magic, a subject often spoken of with sighs by weary students, for its lessons tend to arrive in the same droning tone, delivered without pause or excitement by Professor Binns. Professor Binns, you see, is not like the other teachers. He is a ghost, pale and faintly glowing, with glasses that slip low upon his nose and robes that trail like mist. Once, long ago, he was alive, though the exact year of his passing has long been forgotten. The story goes that one evening he dozed off in front of the fire in the staff room, and when morning came, he simply rose, left his body behind, and carried on to class. He has been teaching ever since, so committed to his subject that he never noticed he had died. In his classroom, dust motes swirl in the air as quills scratch lazily on parchment. Students listen, or try to, as he recites the endless tales of goblin rebellions, of wizards' duels that shaped kingdoms, of ancient magical pacts and forgotten wars. To many, his voice seems dry, words rolling together like a lullaby of monotony. Yet hidden within these lectures are the very roots of the wizarding world. Each rebellion, each treaty, each discovery of spellcraft has laid the foundation for the present. And though some drift into daydreams, others lean forward, realizing that to understand magic as it is today, one must first understand the centuries that forged it. Beyond the core subjects, there are electives, lessons that open doors to new kinds of wonder. There is care of magical creatures, taught out on the castle grounds, where fields stretch toward the forest. Here, students learn to approach hippogriffs with respect, bowing low until the proud creatures bow back, their wings folding with dignity. They learn to care for nifflers with twitching noses and mischievous paws, to watch as unicorns move silently among the trees, and to glimpse the thestrals, skeletal, winged horses visible only to those who have seen death. In this class, magic feels alive, breathing in every feather, every scale, every watchful eye of the creatures that share the world. Then there is divination, a subject both mysterious and uncertain. In the circular tower classroom, the air is thick with incense, teacups clutter every table, and crystal balls gleam with cloudy depths. Some students squint at tea leaves, claiming to see shapes, a skull perhaps, or a flower, or nothing at all. Others gaze into the misty orb and insist they glimpse shadows of what is yet to come. For some, the class feels like fanciful guessing. For others, it opens a door to a hidden current of magic, one that whispers truths not yet written. There are electives still more precise. Arithmancy, where numbers hold patterns of power, guiding spells as mathematics guides architecture. Ancient runes, where students puzzle over carved symbols, translating the old languages of magic, unlocking wisdom from ages past. And others besides, each widening the horizon of what a young witch or wizard might one day master. And so, day after day, lesson after lesson, life at Hogwarts is filled with learning. Not only the learning of spells and charms, but the learning of history, of mysteries, of the creatures and languages that shape the magical world. And though the days pass quickly, each one holds its own wonder, its own secret waiting to be uncovered. Life at Hogwarts. Beyond the classrooms and lessons, beyond the incantations recited and the potions brewed, Hogwarts is alive with rhythm and tradition. It is more than a school, far more than stone walls and spell work. It is a living, breathing place, a world within a world. For its students, it is not only where they learn, but where they grow. It is not only where they discover magic, but where they discover themselves. And for countless generations, it has been what few places in the world can truly claim to be, a home. At the very heart of this enchanted home lies the Great Hall. To step inside is to feel a sense of belonging, a sense that you have entered a place both grand and welcoming. Its walls are high, built of ancient stone that has stood for centuries, echoing faintly with the voices of those who came before. But it is the ceiling that captures the breath of every new student, enchanted to mirror the sky outside. If the sun shines, golden light pours down. If clouds gather, shadows drift across the vaulted space. And on clear nights, stars twinkle overhead, as though the heavens themselves have descended into the castle. 4 long tables stretch the length of the chamber, one for each house. Floating candles hover above them, their gentle flames casting a warm glow upon golden plates and gleaming silver goblets. The sight is both majestic and comforting, an endless invitation to gather, to eat, and to share. Mornings begin here with a flutter of wings as owls swoop gracefully through the air. They drop letters into eager hands, packages into waiting laps. A ripple of excitement spreads through the tables, the rustle of envelopes, the tearing of paper, the soft gasps or bursts of laughter that follow. Sometimes a student beams at a cheerful letter from home. Other times a brow furrows over troubling news printed in the Daily Prophet. And always the owls circle back upward, their work complete, disappearing into the rafters above. The meals themselves are hearty, rich with both nourishment and magic. Platters brim with roast chicken, steaming potatoes, and freshly baked rolls that smell faintly of butter and salt. Jugs of pumpkin juice sparkle in the light, golden amber and endlessly refreshing. For those with a sweet tooth, puddings and tarts, trifles and treacle gleam like treasures. The tables seem to know no limit, each dish refilling itself the moment it grows empty, as though the castle itself takes joy in feeding its children. And then there are the feasts, moments when the great hall transforms into something even more extraordinary. Banners hang high, proudly displaying house colours. Music fills the air, mingling with the chatter of hundreds of voices. Platters appear heavy with turkey and ham, roasted vegetables, pies steaming with spice. Desserts arrive in endless waves, each more decadent than the last. Goblets clink together, and laughter rises to meet the enchanted sky. Here, in this hall of stone and magic, no student is left hungry. Here, beneath the candlelight and the ceiling of stars, the students of Hogwarts find warmth, celebration, and the joy of being together. When the day ends, students retreat to their common rooms. Each is hidden behind its own entrance, revealed only by password or clever trick. The Gryffindor common room lies behind the portrait of the Fat Lady. Inside, a crackling fire warms cozy armchairs and scarlet banners hang proudly on the walls. The Hufflepuff common room is nestled near the kitchens, round and welcoming, filled with earthy colours, potted plants, and the scent of baking bread. The Ravenclaw common room sits in a high tower, reached by answering a riddle. Inside, pale blue drapes and star-like lamps give it a sense of endless sky and open thought. The Slytherin common room rests beneath the lake, its greenish light filtered through underwater windows. Dark leather couches and carved stone pillars give it an air of secrecy and power. These rooms are more than resting places. They are sanctuaries where friendships grow, where homework is tackled late into the night, and where laughter lingers like smoke after a fire. Beyond the castle, the grounds stretch wide and untamed. There is the Black Lake, where giant squid tentacles occasionally ripple the surface. The Forbidden Forest, dark and filled with mysteries, centaurs, unicorns, and other creatures who do not always welcome human company, and rolling lawns where students lounge in the sun, books propped on knees, quills scratching parchment. At night, lanterns glow faintly along stone paths. A breeze whispers through ancient trees. The castle itself seems to breathe, settling into silence as students drift to bed. Then, of course, there is Quidditch. High above the ground, broomsticks cut through the air, robes snapping like banners in the wind. The crowd cheers, scarves flying, house pride alive with every swoop and dive. For some, it is simply sport. For others, it is glory. But for all, it is tradition. Other rituals mark the year as well. Halloween feasts with floating pumpkins, Christmas mornings with the castle decked in holly and icicles, warmth glowing against the snowy windows, and at year's end, the leaving feast where the house cup is awarded, banners unfurled in triumph. Time at Hogwarts is marked not only by study, but by celebration. And now, dear listener, as your eyes grow heavier and your breathing slows, let us take one final journey together. You have walked through the day, through lessons and laughter, through spells and stories, and now the night is here to guide you gently toward rest. Imagine, if you will, that you are a student at Hogwarts. The day has ended. The classrooms are quiet, their blackboards still dusted with chalk. Quills lie still upon desks, their tips faintly stained with ink. The echo of learning lingers in the air, like the last trace of a spell. Outside the windows, twilight has deepened into night, and the moonlight washes the castle in silver. You move slowly through the corridors, your footsteps softened by centuries of stone. The torches flicker as you pass, their flames bending as if bowing in respect to the stillness of evening. The castle seems alive in its quiet, the very walls breathing with history, the staircases resting after their playful movements of the day. Tall windows stretch high above you, their glass shimmering with the glow of moon and stars. Beyond them lies the vast landscape of Scotland, the Black Lake rippling gently, the forest standing dark and endless, and the mountains rising far in the distance. Inside, the tapestries watch. Their woven figures shift ever so slightly when they think no one is looking. Knights tilt their lances, maidens adjust their crowns, dragons flick their tails, a world within a world, sharing secrets with the observant dreamer. Hush of history wraps itself around you, as if the castle is a great blanket, timeless and protective. You walk onward, guided by memory, until at last you reach the door of your common room. It greets you warmly. Inside, the fire burns low, its embers glowing a deep, comforting gold. Shadows dance on the walls, moving lazily with the last sparks of flame. Friends are already asleep, curled in armchairs, heads nodding gently, books slipping from their hands onto the rug. The room smells faintly of parchment and smoke, and everything feels safe, enclosed, eternal. You climb the spiral staircase, each step a quiet rhythm carrying you higher into the calm of night. At last, you reach your dormitory. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of wood and old stone. Your bed waits for you, curtains drawn softly around it like a guardian's arms. You change into warm pajamas, fabric soft against your skin. Then you slip beneath the blankets. The sheets greet you with a gentle chill, then quickly warm, wrapping you in the comfort of rest. Above, through the dormitory window, the stars shine over the Black Lake, glittering like candles in the sky. The castle exhales into silence. Owls call softly beyond the walls, their wings whispering through the night air. The world of magic hums faintly, steady and kind, like a lullaby sung not by voice, but by stone itself. Breathe in, breathe out, safe, peaceful, home. And as you drift deeper into rest, you begin to dream of lessons yet to come, filled with wonder, of feasts in the great hall, laughter rising like music, of soaring above the Quidditch pitch, the wind rushing through your hair, of nights by the fire, friends beside you, stories shared and secrets whispered, of quiet study in the library, candles flickering across endless shelves of books. Dream on, dear student of Hogwarts. Dream until morning. The castle keeps its watch. You dream of Hogwarts, not just as a place of learning, but as a sanctuary of imagination and wonder. A place where bravery, kindness, wisdom, and ambition are all honored. A place where the story of magic never ends. And so you let go, sinking deeper, floating gently, wrapped in warmth. The night stretches before you calm and endless, and Hogwarts in your dreams will always be waiting. This has been a bedtime journey into the history and lore of Hogwarts, brought to you by Serene Slumber Tales. May your sleep be restful, your dreams magical, and your heart light with wonder. Good night.